Well, you may have seen it last Friday, the US first presidential debate featuring President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. Interestingly, 67%, two-thirds of CNN's audience said that Trump was the winner. But what about their comments on abortion? Well, let's have a little look. So while most of the debate focus has been on President Biden's confusion, his muddled delivery, and it was very hard to fact check him because they weren't quite sure whether he was muddling it up deliberately or not deliberately. But anyway, there were nonetheless key moments on policy and especially abortion. And President Biden affirmed his extreme position on abortion. He's strongly in support of Roe v. Wade, which of course was overturned 2 years ago. He denied that he supports late-term abortion, yet he refused to answer President Trump's question on what stage he would restrict abortion. Trump got high marks for pressing Biden on his extremism on abortion, but he also caused major concerns from pro-lifers because he affirmed the availability of chemical abortion drugs, which are used in approximately two-thirds of abortions nationally in the US and also here in New Zealand. And he said that he wouldn't block abortion pills from being mailed to states that prohibit abortion. So let's have a look at a couple of segments of the debate. CNN got very quickly onto the abortion debate because I was quite stunned at the end when they were doing the analysis and just how much they kept on coming back to the abortion issue. So it was one of the early questions that they put to Trump and Biden.
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about two-thirds of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it.
Okay. Now, Trump is totally wrong on this, on two aspects. The Supreme Court did not approve the abortion pill. The Supreme Court rejected a challenge to the safety and availability of the pill used for chemical abortions. But they said it was because the pro-life organisations lacked the legal standing to sue. So it was a procedural issue. And they said it because the pro-life doctors can conscientiously object in the US to prescribing the drug. So therefore they weren't affected. So the ruling was based on procedural grounds. The court did not address safety concerns or the FDA's decision in 2016 to relax the regulations on the abortion drug. And it remains a dangerous drug that now causes more than 60% of all abortions in the US. But secondly, he's wrong because he should be open to allowing a review of the drug. He continues.
And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart.
Yeah, he's right that he appointed Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade. I mean, he should receive huge credit for that. The way the pro-abortion groups and the mainstream media manifested with that decision just shows how significant it was. But sadly, allowing different states to determine the law in their state means that the unborn child is hugely at risk in Democrat-led states and even some Republican states. In fact, President Reagan, and I know Trump was referring to President Reagan there, Reagan actually supported federal legislation to protect life incrementally, as well as a human life amendment to the US Constitution protecting all children from abortion. In 1983, he wrote an essay on abortion that pro-life advocates quote to this day, and he defended the life of the unborn in the essay, predicting that the nation's opinion on abortion eventually would change, and expressed his desire to see Roe v. Wade overturned. Now, this was interesting because in 1967, as governor of California, Ronald Reagan signed a bill making abortion legal for victims of rape and incest, and in cases where a woman's physical but also mental health was in danger. Now, that law was amongst the first in the country to decriminalise an abortion. It was actually an action he later regretted. And he's also known for the quote that says, "I've noticed that everyone who is for abortion has already been born." So Trump needs to be careful who he quotes. He continues.
You have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back.
Yep. Well, he's right, and we all know it. President Biden has pledged to sign the Women's Health Protection Act, a bill that would enshrine unlimited abortion until birth in federal law and do away with virtually all existing protections for unborn children and their mothers on both federal and state level, including parental notification laws. And we know Obama championed abortion, but the so-called fact checkers at the Associated Press, CNN, the Washington Post, claim that former President Donald Trump was wrong to say in the debate that not only do late-term abortions and partial birth abortions still occur, that babies are being killed after an abortion and that the Democrats support it. But Trump is right. In 2003, Barack Obama, who was an Illinois state senator, opposed a bill that would have mandated that a child born alive as a result of a botched abortion be given medical care. 2003, the US Senate voted 64-33 to outlaw partial birth abortion, which is good, but 33 voted against it. Of the 33, 29 were Democrats. In 2007, Joe Biden changed his mind and said that the ban on killing a baby who is 80% born is paternalistic. In 2019, Guttmacher Institute, a pro-abortion group, said that at least 12,000 late-term abortions take place annually in the US. 2019, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's a Democrat, signed a bill that removes legal penalties to any medical staff personnel who intentionally allow a child born as a result of a botched abortion to just die. 2019, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam said that if a mother sought to abort her baby, but the baby was born anyway, the infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and her family decide. And he said, the baby would be kept comfortable as it died. And that's the one that Trump just referred to. I'll show you a bit on that. 2019, Montana Governor Steve Bullock vetoed a Born Alive Infants Protection Act. And once again, a Democrat. 2019, the Born Alive Infant Abortion Survivors Protection Act was blocked by Senate Democrats. Bernie Sanders, Klobuchar, and Elizabeth Warren. They were all presidential candidates at the time. The list just goes on. 2023, all but 2 congressional Democrats voted to kill, pardon the pun, kill the Born Alive Infant Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Democrats love abortion. Everyone knows that. Just like the Greens and most of Labour here in New Zealand, and sadly, many in the National Party. But Trump is correct when he talked about the Virginia governor. It was big news when the Democrats said that, but it was part of the policy. Have a listen to what he actually said.
You know, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion.
Can you believe that? The infant would be delivered, the infant would be kept comfortable, the infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And remember, non-viable doesn't mean a little chance of survival, it means no chance of survival. So it's not that we might resuscitate them if that's what the family want, who have just, by the way, requested the abortion. Okay, anyway, this is when Biden comes in, and this is where it goes weird, as expected.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help.
Okay, if you understood that, you're doing well. But he said scholars supported it. Really? Biden opposed Roe v. Wade. He said it was bad law. This is Biden in 1986, when maybe he was still a practicing and thinking Catholic. 1986.
Universal criticism by proponents of pro-choice and opponents of pro-choice that Roe v. Wade was not a very well-reasoned decision. Most constitutional scholars do not offer that as an example of, whether they're for or against abortion, a decision that is well-written and well-reasoned. Not the conclusion, but it's not offered as a way to write a decision.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Now, as Trump and Biden discuss the topic of abortion, Biden appears to equate the deaths of American women at the hands of illegal immigrants, and yes, that's been happening, to efforts to stop women who are attempting to cross state lines to get abortions. Coming over the border into America illegally is apparently the same as someone trying to kill their unborn child by going across state lines. Go figure. But anyway, this is what he says.
The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters.
Yep, you heard it right. There's a lot of young women who are being raped by their sisters, according to Biden.
It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
Yeah, comparing illegal immigrants with abortion. And then he continues.
There have been many young
Trump?
women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back, I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Yeah, well, regarding the founders, I mean, that's his opinion. I don't think the founders would have agreed. They would have wanted it treated like every murder. Federal law applies to every state. Abortion, murder, same thing. And as I've shown you, Reagan was pro-life. But anyway, CNN had to stay on the abortion issue. But actually, it was a very good question. Legal limits on abortion. And this is where Biden just makes stuff up. But hey, don't tell the fact checkers at News Hub or TVNZ. Apparently only Trump needed fact checking. Have a listen.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support
Correct.
any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state.
First trimester between a woman and her doctor. Second trimester between a doctor and an extreme situation. So apparently the woman is involved. Third trimester between the woman and the state. And the doctor is out of there. Yep, Biden is just making up the law as he goes. What he should have said, if he was honest, is yes, it's a woman's right to choose 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, partial birth. It's her choice. What don't you understand about choice? That's what he should have said if he was being honest. But pro-abortionists are never honest about their real intentions. Planned Parenthood certainly don't believe in restrictions. And as you heard, many Democrat states don't believe in restrictions. Continues.
The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states...
Yeah, let me just come back to that. No politician should be making this decision. So no law, in other words, free for all. Abortion doctors just run the system, like that abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell. So he says politicians shouldn't be involved in this, but he's got his hands all over it, and it's what he campaigns the most for. Just continuing.
Take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing.
Correct.
We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's probably when he looked most alert in the whole interview, but Trump is correct about Biden and the Democrats. Biden says we are not for late-term abortion, period. That is fake news, but of course it wasn't fact-checked by the media. But, yep, no politician should be making the decision, he says, but he will anyway. He'll veto any protection for the child. And he's been saying it for years. In fact, he reiterated it in his State of the Union address 2 years ago.
Liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women.
The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans.
Yeah, protecting women, he reckons, but not unborn women. Protecting access to abortion, protecting women's right to choose, whenever, whatever. And by the way, the person most likely to replace Biden, if he was to withdraw any time now, is pro-abortionist Kamala Harris. This is what she said during the last presidential campaign.
In 13 of those states, women would lose access to abortion immediately and outright. Those Republican leaders who are trying to weaponize the use of the law against women, well, we say, how dare they? How dare they tell a woman what she can do and cannot do with her own body? How dare they?
And then last night, we heard former Vice President Mike Pence say, I say with the lives of 62 million unborn boys and girls ended in abortion since 1973, generations of mothers enduring heartbreaking and loss that can last a lifetime. Madam Vice President, how dare you?
Yeah, exactly right. And just recently, Kamala Harris reiterated her view on abortion. And
we're about to take off to head to Philly, but I just want to comment on the former president yet again declaring how proud he is of his responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. He yet again said he's proudly responsible for overturning Roe v. Wade. And one has to ask, proudly responsible that 1 in 3 women of reproductive age now live in a state with an abortion ban? Proudly responsible that doctors and nurses can now be jailed in some states for life for providing care? Proudly responsible that states have passed bans with no exception even for rape or incest? And let's all be very clear. If he were to be put back in a position where he could sign off on a law, he would sign off on a national abortion ban. Let's be very clear about that. And that obviously makes the contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump quite clear. We are very clear, and Joe Biden has been clear. If Congress passes a law reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, Joe Biden will sign it into law. So we protect and we believe in a woman's decision and ability to make a decision based on what is in her best interest, not having her government tell her what to do. And we are proud of that position. Thank you.
Yes, they protect, but not protect the unborn child. And they don't want the government telling anybody, woman, what she can do or can't do, but the government is going to enable that. How dare they tell a woman what she can do with their own body? Kamala, there's 2 bodies. Go back to biology class. But it's very, very clear that they don't want restrictions. When Biden said we are not for late-term abortion, he was either lying or he was falling asleep. Maybe both. If Biden isn't for late-term abortion, then it's simple. He should support Roe v. Wade. He should vote for bans on partial birth abortions, vote for bans on late-term abortions, and support states that have time limits. But he won't, because he supports abortion with no restrictions, just like the rest of his party. My hope is that Trump will appoint a running mate who is pro-life and will give him some backbone to continue what he achieved with his Supreme Court nominees. I think that's who the unborn child will be voting for.